Hello, and welcome. Welcome to the Arts Council of Surrey Community Gallery here at the Newton Cultural Centre. My name is Wendy Mould. I'm the producer of ACS Gallery Talks. I'm here today to introduce you to our feature artists for the month of July, a group exhibit by YACOS, Youth Arts Council of Surrey. Artists speaking for the group are coordinator Desmond Tompkins and members Marvy Can and Arden Howard. Work by YACOS are here until July 29th. Their show is also online at the Arts Council of Surrey.ca. This exhibition, Young Artists in Surrey, celebrates the value of young artists and highlights how their work contributes not only to their own creative growth, but also to the vibrancy of the broader community. This selection of work captures the richness and diversity of the local youth art scenes. I find it interesting to see the many ways they express their individual journeys and unique identities through art. I'm looking forward to talking with the artists and learning more about their passion. Let's go meet the artists.
Well, hello, good afternoon, Marvy. It's really nice to meet you and talk to you, and I'm looking forward to learning about your art. Uh,
Hello, it's really nice to meet you too. I'm really excited to be doing this interview. Thank you for having me.
oh, yes, great. I've been doing these for a while, and I just love every one of them. It's so neat to talk to an artist and really learn something about their work. So tell me, you're an abstract artist. So what does that mean to you? Where does your focus?
My focus as an abstract artist, is mostly on integrating like color and line and shape into my artwork. Color is the main thing that most people point out when they see my work. They often think it's very playful. I'm mostly a painter, so I like to use the vibrancy of acrylic paint. Alongside some drawing qualities to bring markers and even like mixed media collage into my work on canvas. And I've chosen to do that in an abstract format, as I really enjoy like not only having like my own meaning in the work, but seeing different viewers' interpretation of the work as well. As abstract doesn't have much of an obvious meaning as like say a landscape of a lake or something like that.
Oh, that's kind of neat. So let's have a look at, you were telling me too earlier on that you want to expand your work into even more, adding collage, what kind of things, texture? It sounds like a lot more texture in your work. Is that what you're aiming for?
Yes, within the past year, I've gotten really into like using like found items in my work. And I think texture is definitely something. I like having parts of the work that pop out. I like having the brush strokes be extremely visible when I paint. I like having even just like using like metallic markers so that that shiny look catches like the light when it's hanging in like a gallery. That's something that's very like fascinating to bring that kind of scrapbook quality but into a gallery setting. I don't see why those two things shouldn't be able to coexist.
Neat, neat. Well, let's have a look at a couple of your pieces. Your first one here that you were having the show is Tenderness. Can you tell us a little bit about that piece?
Sure. So Tenderness is a acrylic piece that I made last fall. It was a side project I was doing during one of my painting classes. It was inspired by my professor's insistence that we learn how to do this technique called cropping in our artworks. So you take your previous work and you zoom into a specific part of the work and essentially create a whole new project based off of that. So the original painting that Tenderness was based off of was very broad and talking specifically about mass and society's view of them. So when I zoomed in, it suddenly became much more intimate. So to line up with that, I decided to call the piece Tenderness to reflect the much closer feeling that I had to this painting versus the previous one.
Well, that sounds neat. Yeah, I can see that having the big and then going to the little, and yes, it obviously meant more. So the other piece you have is aerial view, green. What was that all about?
So Aerial View is a watercolor piece with aspects of drawing marker and like found paper. It's technically part of a three-piece series, but this is one specifically focusing on the color green. It's inspired by my experience, kind of like a bird's eye view of flying on plane from Vancouver to where my parents live and where I grew up in Ontario. As that's a very almost feels like I'm living like a double life almost when I go back and forth between those two places.
Right, right.
So yeah, this screen piece, it can stand on its own, but when it gets combined with the two other red and blue pieces, then you'll notice the line work for all of them lines up together almost like puzzle pieces. So I wanted to kind of experiment with making works that are part of a series but can also stand on their own.
Oh, neat. So now, where are you going to go with your artwork? What's next for you?
I think besides more experimentation with mixed media and also just increasing the size of the canvas that I'm working on, the biggest I've done so far is a 30 by 40 painting, which is actually hanging right behind me. Um, I think when I begin my master's of Glasgow School of Art this year, I think that's really going to kind of force me not only being in a different country, but also like a totally like branch starting fresh, basically, in terms of networking. I think that'll really kind of push me as an artist and force me to experiment even more and get really out of like my comfort zone. I think when I come back to Vancouver in 2 years, I'll have like a lot more ex personal experience, even like growth that'll show in like my artistry and the painting that I'm doing.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you. I think definitely because you're also your surrounding will be completely different as well with the other students and stuff and yeah, new things. That's very exciting. I'm very jealous for you. I think you're going to have a great time over there and certainly learn a lot. We'll look forward to seeing some of your work in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you for your time.
So, good afternoon, Arden. It's really nice to meet you, and I'm looking forward to hearing you talk about your art today.
Hi.
So, I understand now your art has an overlying theme of pigeons. Could you kind of tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, so I've been drawing pigeons for quite a long time. It's kind of the only thing I've been drawing lately. Because to me, pigeons are this like sort of symbol of optimism and hope for sort of the way that I envision the world could be better. Is that I sort of pigeons and doves are symbols of peace and hope and love very often in our culture. And so I just sort of thought one day of like almost doing this sort of non-serious ritual of trying to draw as many pigeons as I could in the hopes that that would maybe slightly in some metaphorical way create a better world. Um, or be this sort of act of believing in a better world that could then motivate action that towards sort of actually achieving that. Pigeons are a very misunderstood animal, but they have a really long history with humanity. They were domesticated. They were one of the first domesticated birds. And there's this really long history of humans celebrating them. There's these like gigantic dove cotes with like very ornate structures that house thousands of pigeons. There are some cultures that make like special jewelry for pigeons, like jeweled leg bands and necklaces for pigeons to wear. There have been instruments like pigeon whistles that were attached to the back of pigeons and created music when pigeons flew. And so there's this, you can sort of see through that this sort of beautiful history of humans with pigeons that often gets overlooked.
Right. So, let's have a look at your first piece here now. It's called Growth and Decay, and we have pigeons. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so for this one, I was sort of thinking about like cycles of decay and life, which is also a thing people sort of decay is something I think people often is sort of unfairly maligned by people, and I feel like pigeons can sometimes allow us to explore the things we sort of unfairly demonize, because pigeons themselves are. But I see sort of decay as this thing that is necessary for life to exist. That like everything sort of dies eventually, and through that there will be new life coming out of that. And so I wanted to sort of have like two pictures that sort of explored this, where there's these pigeons that are being sort of decayed by flowers growing, to sort of show like how when one thing starts to degrade and starts to decay, that is sort of means that something else is new is coming along, something that is equally as beautiful.
Neat. Okay, well, let's have a look at your next piece. So this is another one of your entries into the show, Pigeon Truce. And can you tell us a little bit about this piece?
Yeah, so this one was it was made for this event about sort of imagining like optimistic solutions to climate change, which felt very fitting for my pigeon thing. And this one I was trying to be very playful with it, to sort of, I think that humor is sort of always interwoven with everything in the world, even some of the most terrible things in the world. And being able to approach these things with a little bit of humor, I think, is a strength that I think everyone should try to foster a little bit. So for this one, I have like the pigeons sort of saying different little sayings I say to motivate myself, some of which are more serious, and are more sort of just genuine calls to action, and then some of them are just completely ridiculous, of like talking about lobster gods, and horses knowing things that you don't, which is true. Watch out for horses.
Right.
But just sort of, I find that like when I'm very scared of something, sort of approaching it in the most ridiculous way possible really sort of helps me navigate it, because I'm a very ridiculous person. I think everybody is a very ridiculous person, even if they're pretending to not be. So I like to confront that, and pigeons are very ridiculous creatures.
Right. Okay, so now where are you going with your art from here? Is there something else that's drawing to your mind now?
Yeah, I've been a bit like sort of pulled away from visual art lately. I still really want to do more with the pigeons someday, but I'm still figuring out exactly what that entails. I've been mostly right now writing a lot of poetry. I like to write poetry about locations, and maybe if I stop procrastinating on it, we'll be publishing some of these poems in a chapbook at some point.
Oh, neat.
I've been writing these poems that I've been calling translations of a place, where I credit them as being written by the place where I wrote them, and then translated by me into English. Because I think that sort of the objects around us tell stories that like are pretty like valuable to decipher if we choose to look for that, which often we don't. But I just felt like it could be like good to highlight that, and to sort of show the stories that I see in the world around me.
Wow, that's very interesting. Well, I'll look forward to seeing some of that, and good luck to you in the future. And thank you very much for coming in today.
Well, good afternoon, Desmond. It's really nice of you to take the time to talk to me about the show. I'm very excited to hear what you have to say.
And I'm very excited to meet with you.
So now, Desmond, you're the coordinator of the YACOS group in Surrey. So you curated the show. Can you tell us a little bit about that process and what you were doing, thinking?
So I have been the program coordinator for YACOS for over a year now, and this is the first exhibit that I have curated myself. I have a few years of curatorial experience in museums and art galleries throughout Metro Vancouver and the Surrey area. And so this was the big one. This was my first one on my own. From the time of me starting with YACOS as the program lead, I really wanted us to have our own solo exhibit at a gallery. And it's finally came along this July. The goal of this exhibit was to uplift youth artists and show the diversity of the experience of being a youth today. And I think that oftentimes youth are neglected when it comes to the arts. Typically, there are not shows dedicated to them. Sometimes they're treated like an afterthought, and I didn't want that to be the case here. I wanted this to be a moment where youth got the chance to shine and really show that they are as talented, remarkable, and deserving of recognition as their older counterparts.
Interesting. Yes, I certainly know. I work with a lot of youth myself in visual arts. I'm a teacher, and so I know what you're saying. Okay, well, let's have a look at some of your work. Now, you have two pieces in the show. The first one is the Saccharin. Can you tell us a little bit, what is it about? And I notice it's sold too, by the way. That's pretty good for you.
Thank you. Yeah, so that work, I typically, when it comes to my work, like to go through archival databases and find historic artifacts. So that is featuring a ancient Roman sculpture, and I took these figures who are kind of intertwined with one another already in the sculpture, and I doubled them and got them to look very, very intertwined. And it's supposed to speak to this kind of saccharine is an artificial sweetener, and it's supposed to speak to this kind of um, almost too sweet or almost like unnaturally sweet kind of love that people find themselves in sometimes, where you start to blend into the person that you are in love with. You know, love changes a person just like the figures mold together and become something new through the piece.
Hmm, very interesting. Yeah. And now your other piece, as luck would have it, quite a bit different. What was that about?
I like to really capture the diversity of my lived experiences. And so that piece is taking some, once again, archival images of some old illustrations, and they're typically symbols of luck. So we have a horseshoe on there, we have a couple of three-leaf clovers, and it's supposed to be kind of inverting these symbols of luck in an ironic way. There's a figure in the center of it that's falling. So he's surrounded by all of this luck that's kind of flipped on its head, and he finds himself just, that's what luck will do to you.
Okay, so it sounds to me like your art is a very interesting thing for you. It certainly causes a lot of research as well, which many of us end up doing as artists. So where is your art going to take you now? Where do you see it going, and where are you going?
So I've always felt really drawn to community arts and that sort of environment, and I really hope to continue to participate in shows throughout the Lower Mainland, and hopefully continue to provide youth exhibits throughout Surrey and the surrounding areas for youth such as myself and the people that I work with. I also am hoping to become a high school teacher, and I would love to continue mentoring youth in that way and fostering their creative expression, and all while still working on my own creative passions.
Well, it sounds like I'll be seeing some more of you with some of the events happening in Surrey, and I look forward to that. And also, I'd just like to thank you for the work that you do with YACOS. I think it's amazing. And also, I thank you too for the time you spent today.
Thank you.